So the previous two videos, we focused exclusively on the FTP task. Now I want to shift gears, do the same things, but on our local network or on our domain. So we're no longer going to involve an FTP, but we're going to be able to do the same thing from a network share, for example, or a mapped drive or a folder on our machine. So to do that, we're not going to use the FTP, we're going to use the file system task. So let me create a new package. We'll rename this one. Oh man, I hate it when it does this. There's a bug in SSIS 2008 that won't let you rename. There we go. So we're going to name this one Files 03. It will be included with this video in the download. And what we're going to do is just take a look at the file system task. You're going to see much the same interface when it comes to file movement. So we're going to have a similar screen right here. You'll notice the operation is very similar. You've got your source, you've got your destination. Again, just like I said with FTP, don't worry about the variables and expressions. We're going to cover that in chapters 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. Okay. Now let's take a look at the operations. You know, these aren't that different from working with the FTP task. Copy files, create directory. Really not that challenging, I think, to work with. The one thing that we do see here is you have the ability to set attributes, like making it a read-only folder. So like I could choose my source connection. Let's just make it a change the set attributes right here, and notice the attributes that I can set. So when I choose set attributes, I don't get a destination. I'm just choosing at the source what are the attributes that I want to change it to. Hidden, archive, system, read only. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is something very simple, which is just copying a file. However, we need to create the directory first. So let's set up a create directory task. I'll name it create C:/ something. Okay. So let's do it. Let's make a source connection. And when we choose this connection, you get a weird screen here. This is weird. Like I've chosen up here that I wanted a create directory option. So why are you saying this, that I could do a create file? It doesn't really make any sense here. So you really just want to choose a create folder. So like I'll make C something, for example. So I'm going to have a problem when I say OK. It doesn't like the name. So it doesn't like C:/ in the name of this. So I've got to, usually I'll just replace those with underscores. Those are acceptable. So it just doesn't like that in the name of a task. So it's going to create the directory called something on the root of the C. We don't actually have anything on the root of the C called something, right? I'm just deleting some junk folders. So there's no something folder here. And now the next file system, let's do this. Let's hook up an FTP. So after it's created that, let's now wire our FTP up using the same connections we did in the last two videos. SSIS 158, the password is learn it first. And under the file transfer, I am going to say the remote path is customers.txt. And why isn't it picking out? Oh, send files. I want to receive files, sorry. So we'll let it pull up. It's connecting right here. And customers.txt. And if you want, you could just say star.star to get all the files, as we learned in the last one. And the local path. Now this is going to be unusual. The local path doesn't exist, and it makes you think that you can use something, but you can't, because that's a create folder file connection, and that's already been done by the time you use this. So I've got to actually make a new connection to an existing folder. See something. Oh no, it doesn't exist either. And so I can't do it. This is where SSIS can be very daunting, particularly for people just coming into SSIS. There are many times where you have to dummy it up, where you have to pretend. So, like, for example, I'm going to pretend that I'm going to use the C drive, and that makes it all happy. See, it goes away, the red thing. But now I'm going to go down to the C drive connection manager down here, and I'm going to edit it, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to say pop, and I'm actually not going to do it there. I'm going to do it with the properties. So let me go to properties, and I'm going to tell it to delay the validation to true. Don't worry about that. Just, man, don't worry so much. Chapter 5, we're going to talk all about dynamic packages and delaying validation and validating external metadata, all that stuff. Don't worry about that too much. What it basically means right now is that when the package starts up, don't go verify that this folder exists. Just assume that it exists, and then when you get to the package, when you get to that task, try to read that. So I'm now going to change it to something. Okay. I run the package. So it created the C something, and let's see, does it download customers.txt? Yes. And we were successful. Couple of things here. If I were to come back over here, go to the properties of this connection manager, and tell it to go ahead and delay the validation to false, which is the default. When the package starts up, it's going to try to find this folder. So you've got the validation phase of the package that you've seen. Maybe you've seen that in the output window. It's actually verifying folders exist, connections can be made, and if they can't, depending on your error settings, it'll bomb out the package. So I had to set that to true to delay that validation. Okay. Again, we'll cover that a little bit later. Not a whole lot to it. It's pretty simple. But so this is the file system task, and it's very simple. I could have done this with the FTP task. Like I could drag the FTP down here, and I could say that I wanted to make a local directory, but that makes absolutely no sense. Why would I create a local directory with the FTP task? Why do I have to log into the FTP server to create a local directory? Okay. So that would make no sense. This would be a case where you wanted to do the file system task. Okay. So now that I've created the directory and I have loaded it up, now I could use the file system task to copy this. So now I could say, now instead of copying a file, I want to move the directory to a new location. I want to rename a file that's found within that directory, or I want to make that a hidden directory. So it's really up to you what you want to do at that point. Now later in the course, let me just give you an idea of some of the things we're going to cover. We're by far not through with FTP and file system. However, this is a tour of all the tasks, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and kind of terminate it here. We are going to later on deal with many real world scenarios, how to zip up files, that you downloaded from FTP or from the file system, or that you exported to SQL Server, how to zip them up and upload them through FTP. We'll talk about how to make these all dynamic. We've got a lot to work with because as an SSIS developer, you're doing this all the time. So I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to go into the next video, which is the execute process task. And I'm going to give you a little bit of the how to zip up files in SSIS, and then how to upload them to FTP, or to leave them here or move them to a new directory or something of that nature. We'll kind of figure it out as we go. But it's really just a little bit. We're really going to see the main parts of that later on, but this is a good introduction to the execute process task. So I'll see you in the next video.